Ampetu washte trojana troshka lemi trumi Celestine. Lampetu ki wichoyake oblake. Wichoyake ki the Labyrinth of Minos eyapi. Aha. Wana lila washte anachoptape. Greece is a warm and sunny country. The winter is short, and most of the year there is a dazzling sun and a blue sky, which is reflected in the deep blue waters of the Aegean Sea. The country includes hundreds of islands, some big and some small, some near the mainland, some further away, and the largest of the islands is called Crete. Today, many farmers and shepherds live on Crete. 4,000 years ago, the island of Crete was a rich and mighty kingdom. Some years ago, the people on Crete were very surprised when learned men who studied history came and dug up the earth in many places on the island. They were even more surprised when the ruins of houses and palaces that had been built by the Cretan people long ago were uncovered. These buildings from the past were often 3 or 4 stories high. The walls had been decorated with wonderful paintings, and some of the roofs had gardens on them. The paintings on the walls show that the most popular sport at that time was the bull dance. Young girls and boys, about 16 or 17 years old, are pictured somersaulting over a bull's back. Although the unearthed palace of the king of Crete was mostly in ruins, it was still possible to see that it had once been enormous. It contained chapels for the worship of gods, workshops for skilled craftsmen who made beautiful vases, jewelry, urns, and huge storerooms where food for hundreds of people could be kept. At that time, Crete was a wealthy country, and the people were rich. They were merchants and sailors. Their ships sailed to countries far and near, carrying things that craftsmen made, and returned laden with silver, tin, and copper. The kings of Crete were very powerful. Not only did they rule the island of Crete itself, but many of the smaller islands as well, and even cities on the mainland of Greece. For instance, Athens. They had to pay tribute to the king of Crete by sending him goods, usually olive oil and wheat. One of the rich and powerful kings was called Minos. One day, King Minos made a promise to Poseidon, the god of the sea. There was a great storm at sea, and King Minos promised him he would sacrifice his most beautiful bull to Poseidon if his fleet came back safely. The next day, the sea was calm again, and the king's fleet returned unharmed. But Minos was mean, and although he did sacrifice a bull, it was the poorest and scraggliest of beasts. Poseidon was furious and cursed King Minos for his meanness. Not long after that, something terrible happened. The king's wife was expecting a child, but when she gave birth, the baby had a human body and a bull's head. Now, at the court of King Minos lived a clever Greek called Daedalus, who was very good at designing and making things. One day, King Minos said to Daedalus, "I want you to make something very special for me. I want you to build a maze that is so complicated that nobody will ever find their way out." So Daedalus sat down and designed a maze. He planned a building that would be divided by many walls, and the paths between the walls would twist and turn in every direction. Many other paths would branch off so that anyone who entered the maze would very soon be lost. The building was to be called the Labyrinth, and the only person who would know the way out was Daedalus himself. The labyrinth took many years to build. And in the meantime, the monster with a bull's head that had been born to King Minos grew up. The poor creature was not only very ugly to look at, but it had also developed the horrible habit of eating human beings. It had already killed and devoured many servants at the palace. The people of Crete were very afraid of the monster, which was also known as the Minotaur, or the Bull of Minos. Finally, when the labyrinth was finished, the king had the Minotaur taken right into the center of the building. Then he demanded that the islands and cities that pay tribute send him young men and maidens. These young people were driven into the labyrinth, and after getting lost in the maze, they were eaten by the monster. Daedalus was horrified at the use King Minos made of his building. He wanted to leave Crete, but the king said, "No, I don't want anyone else to have a labyrinth. You cannot leave. You must stay here on the island." And as all the ships that came to Crete obeyed the king's will, Daedalus could find no way to escape. But one day, as he sat sadly with his young son Icarus, Daedalus thought of a very clever way of escaping from cruel King Minos. So this book, by the way, is Ancient Greece by Charles Kovacs. And I would tell the story myself if I could do a better job at it, but I can't. So the next chapter is in the next video.